I've restarted Animal Crossing New Horizons a fair amount of times in my day, and now I'm keeping that tradition going by starting another new island, baby! I named my character and chose my look once again, and this time around I went with a map where the resident services is right by the airport, just for some spice. I flew onto the island and was greeted by my two starters, Cherry and Biff, both of whom are iconic characters in the Angry Coconuts cinematic universe, so you already know that this island is gonna be a hit. The first task is to plop down houses since everyone deserves a home, and though I chose to live on the beach once again, I decided to let my villagers live where they wanted to for a change, which is something I've actually never done before, despite playing this game since launch. I worked hard picking sticks and fruit while everyone else just stood around pretending to do something, and then it was time for the welcome party, where I chose the name for the new island, and because I was so creative, I'm now in charge of everything as the resident representative, while everyone else gets to just chill and do nothing. Great. After getting too turnt at the party and having a very vivid dream of KK Slider that night, I woke up the next morning to Tom Nook yelling at me to come outside. 5 more minutes, Tom, please, it's like 7 in the morning. I came outside to see that Tom Nook had a few goodies for me. The first being a brand new cell phone that was completely free. How kind of him. Oh, wait, he was just buttering me up to reveal the bill, which I clearly can't afford since I decided to come to the island with 0 bells in savings for some reason, so I have to pay it off using 5,000 Nook miles instead. You start off with 500, and I managed to get another 300 right away from taking some pics for the thumbnail. I took part in the DIY workshop to get access to more crafting and some tools, including a fishing rod that was made with 5 branches and a hammer. Where does this string come from? Who cares? None of this is real. I spent the rest of day 1 grinding for miles by selling all the weeds and fruit that I could pick up, talking to both of my villagers, using my phone, writing on the bulletin board, shopping, planting flowers, and catching bugs with my net until it broke, which gave me even more miles. And by doing all of that, I managed to get 5,000 miles relatively quick, which means I could pay off my first home loan, and starting tomorrow, I'll finally have a door. I got a crafting recipe for an axe as a reward, so I ended off the day by chopping every tree on the mainland to get as much wood as I can. Tom Nook started the day with morning announcements in the pouring rain. The grind clearly stops for nothing. And yesterday I donated 5 critters to Tom Nook, so because of that, the museum is now unlocked. So I beelined straight to Blathers to get recipes for a shovel and a vaulting pole. And then it was time for the main mission of day 2. Building the shop. But because Tom Nook was too busy scratching his bell bag, I had to help Timmy by getting 30 pieces of each wood, as well as 30 iron nuggets, all on my own. And luckily for me, I already had all the wood required since I spent the end of day 1 chopping all those trees, so all I had to do was get my hands on 30 iron nuggets. I took my new shovel and pole vault and went around town smacking a bunch of rocks. While doing so, I ran into him. Gulliver. I normally choose to ignore him, but I figured for the sake of trying to properly play this game for once, I'd help him out. It took a while to wake him up, and when he finally did, he pulled out a gun. Nope, that's just his broken cell phone, which needed 5 communicator parts to fix, and in typical Animal Crossing fashion, I had to do all the hard work by finding them myself. Vanilla is my favorite flavor of clam. Overall, it's a cute mission, but I do hope Gulliver learns his lesson and never falls overboard again. I managed to get 8 iron nuggets from the rocks I could hit, plus I got an extra 5 from Biff, bringing my total to 13. So I earned enough Nook miles to redeem for 2 Nook miles tickets and headed on to the airport that finally opened so I can fly off and get some more. If you're not new to the channel, then you'd already know that I like to take this opportunity to find my 3 villagers for the island, and since I only have 3 tickets because Tom Nook gives you one for free, I'm taking whoever shows up, no matter what. On the first island of the day, I found Rex. He's cute and cool, but in all honesty, I feel like he would have made a better stuffed animal than an Animal Crossing villager. I invited him to live on nookits anyways and spent the rest of my time on the island harvesting all the iron nuggets and other resources that I could get. Island number 2 had a bunch of bamboo, and the second villager of the day, Bianca. She is an absolute diva who is 100% the type of girl who never shuts up and is constantly screaming and yapping, and you know damn well I'm more than excited to bring her on the the island. I just know she's gonna bring the drama and be the life of the party. Since there weren't any normal trees, I ended up just hitting all the rocks and managed to get enough iron nuggets to donate alongside all the wood to Timmy. And after placing it down, the shop will be unlocked tomorrow and capitalism will win once again. Yay! I headed to the third and final island of the day and was greeted by Bertha. She's blue. I basically forced her to move to a brand new island full of strangers, chopped a bunch of trees, and then headed on back to organize all my new materials to use later on. I spent the rest of day 2 selling items and buying stuff from Timmy, finding fossils to assess but not donate. I just placed them outside for the time being as it will be helpful in the future. And then I crafted a bunch more tools as well as a workbench to place outside. And as a reward for all my hard work, I ended off day 2 by doing some group stretching in the pouring rain because this is the best way to bond with all my new friends. They totally won't hate me for this. The next day began with a letter from Gulliver, thanking me for basically saving his life, and as a reward, I got a katana, which seems appropriate to me. All of the villagers I found yesterday are about to move on to the island in the next couple of days, and to no one's surprise, Tom Nook is making me do even more hard work by preparing their houses. I started off with building a bridge, which was pretty simple thanks to all my past grinding, and then Tom Nook sent me off with 3 housing plots, a ladder recipe, and a dream. He also continues to yap too much while I'm trying to place everything down, talking to me like I don't know what flowers are. Boy, if you don't. Anyways, I decided to keep the tradition of placing the houses randomly alive by doing that once again, leading me to the most tedious part of starting a new island, getting all of the required furniture for each home. But since I'd been chopping trees and smacking each rock I found for the last 3 days, I managed to craft all the required items in a breeze and finished off the mission right away and got a bunch of fences as a reward. I would have preferred cash, but this will do for now, I guess. I placed down all the fences for some miles and then caught some more critters to not donate to Blathers once again. I know it seems like I'm neglecting my king, but I promise this will all be worth it later. Blathers, I'm so sorry. But in other good news, the Nook shop opened today, and while visiting, I ran into Mabel and then bought some things, as one would do in a shop. The next few days all went the same. I said hi to the villager moving in and then did my dailies. Some interesting things did happen, however. Like on day 4, Cherry tried teaching me a recipe for a leaf umbrella, even though she already taught me how to make one on our first day? I did take part in the DIY workshop as well, however, where I now have the power to customize furniture. Whether it's painting a wardrobe or reupholstering a stool, I'm somehow able to do all of that with a paintbrush. Mabel arrived for the first time the next day, in the pouring rain. This poor diva had to keep girl bossing no matter what, since capitalism stops for nothing. And that remains true on day 6, as resident services will be closed tomorrow for expansion. I'd been grinding my Nook miles for the last few days as well, so I finally decided to upgrade my pockets and get the Pro Design editor. And I also decided to buy a new outfit as well, one that really shows my appreciation for the Nook brand, since I'm basically Tom Nook's little bitch at this point. And I think Mr. Nookington would definitely approve of this fit. Day 7 ended up being a pretty chill day since town hall was closed. I planted some trees, did some fishing, and caught a stone, my favorite fish, and yeah, I'm not doing this again. Moving on. On the 8th day of Nook Tits, my true Nook gave to me a brand new resident services, a bad bitch, and even more physical labor because it's time to build the campsite, which required these materials that I already had because I'm smart. So I built it as expected and placed it in this cute area by the river. Not that it matters since I'm probably gonna move it later on. I did some more grinding and bought some more clothes from Mabel and watched Cherry forget to change into her rain clothes because she was too busy singing in the rain. Tom Nook called me the next day with exciting news. Employment. I met with him at the airport where he told me that he referred me to Lottie's Vacation Home Company because my own house looks so good. If Tom Nook thinks this looks good, I never want to go to his house. I wanted to say no since I'm currently occupied with the island, but I was basically forced to accept. Oh well. I'll head on later if I remember to do so. Mabel also showed up once again to finally place down the Able sisters, and the campsite was also built, so now we wait for a camper to arrive, which happens tomorrow. Guys, I'm scared. just please don't be ugly. Oh my god, y'all look for me, okay? Please. Just tell me if it's ugly. Just tell me if it's a flop. Oh my god, is it there? Is it there? It's totally there. Who is it? Why the fuck is he all up in my face? Excuse me? Step back. Oh. This is a villager I hate. And it's also very ironic because so many people in my comments tell me I look like him. So how fitting. Thomas Nookington, you're not seeing heaven. That flop moved on to the island the next day. Too bad I don't care. But more importantly, it's time for the most important mission of the new island. Getting it to 3 stars so Tom Nook can finally meet his idol, KK Slider. And also so that the island can have a good reputation for like tourism and stuff, I don't know. The first thing to do is to invite more residents so that KK Slider can have a proper crowd. So I hit a money rock to get 10,000 bells to buy a housing plot. And then I set off on a villager hunt with only 1 Nook Miles ticket that I got for free after resident services upgraded. And baddie alert, I found Victoria and she is more than welcome to move on to my island. Her design is dope, her house is camp, and I am so much happier with her than I was with that other one. Able Sisters also opened today, and although there were a ton of cute clothes, I decided to save my bells for housing plots instead, and because I didn't want to change out of my iconic fit anyways. With Victoria moved in, I decided to embark on one more villager hunt, and this time around, it's Scoot. He looks like what someone who's never played Animal Crossing thinks a villager in the game looks like, if that makes sense. And as I was leaving the island, I found a bottle with the DIY recipe from Scoot? I guess that's the reason why he showed up on this island, to drop off the bottle? Interesting. Nevertheless, he's now living on the island, and I'm excited to have him. Hope he doesn't cause any trouble. But now the moment of truth. I have 8 villagers living on Nooktits. For the last 12 days, I've been purchasing items and catching critters to place all around the island. Plus, I planted 10 flowers a day. And when I went to Isabel to check my progress, it turns out I got 3 stars on my first try. Okay. And all that hard work led me to day 14 when KK Slider finally showed up and lives were changed. Especially Tom Nook's. And a journey that began with the literal dream of meeting KK Slider actually managed to come to fruition with me standing front row at an actual KK Slider concert. Why the heck is Scoot standing in the back row when he's the shortest villager on the island? Things kept coming full circle after the concert as Tom Nook was outside my house once again. He yapped a bunch as expected, and more importantly, I unlocked terraforming. Even though it's the only notable thing to do in New Horizons nowadays, I decided to put it aside for the time being and see what else there is to do now that the island's at 3 stars. Unfortunately, I'll have to wait until the next day for more features to unlock, so I decided to do something that desperately needed to be done: donating all of these to Blathers. Well, I can only donate 15 of them at first, one by one, so that Blathers can actually upgrade his tent to a proper museum, and I just know he hates me for making him wait this long. And now that I'm no longer Tom Nook's little bitch, I decided to finally give myself a brand new outfit, one that truly reflects who I am as a person. I also finally talked to Harv, who'd just been wandering around for God knows how long to unlock Harv's Island, which is technically called Photopia, but I don't know anyone who actually calls it that. I ended the day grinding for some more Nook Miles and then moved on to day 15, which started off with the only time Isabel's morning announcements are actually monumental. There's a couple new features to play with, including island ordinances, which I decided to mess around with as I've actually never done them before in New Horizons. They allow you to change up the way your island functions, and it costs 20,000 bells to enact, which I don't have. Oh, never mind. But luckily for me, I had enough Nook Miles to go to a Cap'n Island instead, since it was also unlocked today. The island I got was a banger as it was filled with money trees, so I shook all of them down to get 21,000 bells, as well as a gyroid piece and a bottle recipe that I already knew. But I'll let it slide since it's from Fang, one of my faves. Cap'n tried to trauma dump on the way back, but I couldn't be bothered, so I just skipped the dialogue and headed back to Town Hall to finally enact enact an ordinance for the first time. Not to sound like an old hag, but I honestly do prefer how New Leaf handled the ordinances over this game. I just feel like in New Horizons, they don't make that big of a difference like they did before. For example, I enacted the early bird ordinance, which makes every villager wake up and shops open only 1 hour early, as opposed to things being opened up to 3 hours early in New Leaf. The beautiful town ordinance does give a nicer chance at getting hybrid flowers, which is pretty good if you're into that, but I'm not really into farming hybrids anymore since I have a lot of those over on my other island that I've had for 3 years now. I do think flowers not wilting in New Leaf leaves a bigger impact instead though, if I were to compare. But if you disagree, good for you. I bought some better socks from Abel's and then decided to head on over to Harv's finally. And because it was June when I recorded this, the most iconic Tea for Tea couple were also there on my first visit to celebrate wedding season. And for the 4th year in a row, they wanted me to help them recreate their wedding photos because I guess they just keep losing them or something, I don't know. But considering that this save is only 15 days old, I didn't have a lot of items to work with, and my options were pretty limited. I ended up with this, and I personally believe that it rivals something you'd see on HGTV, specifically before it gets renovated into something pretty, but hey, at least it's on TV. If you zoom in close enough when taking pictures, it doesn't look that bad, but Reese still did clock me for the ugly stuff, which is fair enough. I still got rewarded for the build anyways though, so I will consider this a win for me and my future home renovation business. With the new ordinance in effect, I decided to play at 7 AM the next day, and the museum is now upgraded, and sure, it's not the cute aesthetically pleasing brown one from when the game first launched, but I'll take it anyways. I found it so funny that when I went to the ceremony, all of my villagers were there, but then Cherry immediately went back to bed once it was over. I finally donated the rest of my critters and fossils to Blathers. Hopefully he no longer considers me an enemy from now on, and I ended off the day with some more group stretching, which Daisy May joined, and I must say, it's quite iconic how she was able to do it while balancing turnips on her head. I had a campsite villager the next day, and I hoped that they were a lot better than Olaf, but I guess not. Red also showed up for the first time today, so obviously I stopped by his ship and bought a painting, and when it arrived the next day, I donated it to Blathers, and when I walked out of the museum and walked right back in, Blathers was asleep again. I thought I had done all that was needed to unlock the roost, but I completely forgot about getting a sea creature. Oh well, I'm too lazy to do that right now, and honestly, I wasn't really in the mood to unlock the roost anytime soon. Blame my recent playthrough of New Leaf and how it reminded me of what was taken from us. RIP to my blue-haired with pronouns barista days. I decided to play at 5 AM the next morning, and oh my god, I forgot how glorious the vibes are at this time. The music, the sunrise, and overall peace I felt while doing my dailies took me back to when the game first came out, and when I would play it religiously. 2020 was definitely a rough year, but it's nice to remember how much fun I had playing New Horizons. Wild that it was 4 years ago now. I noticed as well that 3 of my villagers were awake. It's pretty common for villagers to be up at this time, but I've never had more than one, so it was jarring. I figured it was because I had the Nook Miles Plus mission to talk to 3 of my villagers, and the game decided to just make it easy for me to do it right away. But it was actually because of the ordinance that I had enacted that I completely forgot about until right now, as I'm editing this video. I've been enjoying my time on this new island. However, I was starting to get a little bored, and I was craving something new. What better way to satisfy said craving than by getting a job in the vacation home business? It was time for me to truly embrace my inner property brother and fly out to a faraway island and play Happy Home Paradise. I landed and met with everyone's favorite short king, Nico, and then immediately humbled him by beating him to the door. Remember Lottie? Yeah, she's been waiting for me this entire time and thankfully isn't mad that it took me 10 days to finally arrive. I also met Wardell, and I will literally die for him. I got changed into my new uniform, and even though it was 5 in the morning, we already had our first client, Eloise. Our business just opened up and doesn't have any sort of reputation, but she still trusts us enough to bring her dream vacation home to life. Now, so far, I don't have the strongest track record with interior design in this save, but I knew I had to give it my all. Not because it's what Eloise deserves, but mainly so I could impress Wardell. and because I'm getting paid to do this. There were a ton of cute items to work with, so coming up with the design was pretty easy. I went for a rustic yet beachy vibe, and I think I managed to do a good job. I personally don't read, but I would definitely scroll on TikTok in this room for hours, as long as there's air conditioning. Eloise also approved of the build, and with that, my first official vacation home was complete. I headed back to Lottie, where I finally got my first paycheck. For my second home, I had a choice between two mothers, Robin and Gigi. Now, I am a big fan of Gigi, but I decided on Robin since her theme was more up my alley. She wanted a classical estate, so I wanted to give a room that looked like your distant rich aunties who your parents are finally letting you visit for the first time, and I just know that Robin would spill some crazy tea in this room to her girls. After heading back to Eloise's to take photos for my portfolio, my next client was Sydney, our lost girl. Her dream vacation home was titled A Working Vacation Home, aka Girl Boss Manor. So I obviously gave her a home office, and I meant that literally, as I turned her home into an actual office and she improved. Interesting. Comment down below if you would also vacation in this place. Pudge was my next client, and he wanted a pretentious place surrounded by fancy riches, and I personally think I did amazing with this house. Sure, there isn't a bed or anything, and his toilet is just in the middle of the room, but he still approved, so it's nice to see that all my clients so far truly understand my vision. Lottie forced me to take a break afterwards, during which I learned that she was planning on purchasing all the facilities and becoming a landlord. Okay, I returned from my break and saw that Lucy wanted a home where she was surrounded by dolls, so I gave her exactly that. I then designed a room for Gigi, who wanted a green room as her vacation home. Interesting choice, but I think I ate with the design anyways. And after getting my first promotion and a raise, it was time to build the school. Why is there a school on this island? I honestly don't know. A lot of these villagers are jobless, and I don't think if they get an education anything would change, but who cares? I get to design a classroom now. I went fairly simple with the design, aiming for a realistic vibe, and I also gave the classroom a hamster, who's probably confused at its existence in this universe since there are also hamster villagers. It's like that one tweet about Arthur and the koala. I appointed Gigi as the teacher of this establishment and made sure that she was serving charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent while employed. And as for the name of the building, I decided to keep it simple as well. Afterwards, I found Allie, who wanted a mushroom forest, so I went with an abstract approach in my design. You might be thinking that this was a lazy attempt, but I call it minimalism, and I decided to use said approach for the next few homes. Candy wanted this, so I did this, plus an extra wall because Nico wanted attention, I guess. Megan wanted this, so I gave her this, and I did the same with Pecco, and because it was my 10th home, Lottie threw me a party to celebrate my accomplishments. I kept the minimalist streak going with Spike and Snooty, and after another promotion, it was time to build the restaurant as well as the cafe. For the restaurant, I came in with a concept, borrowing inspiration from a previous build. I placed 4 dolls sitting at a table staring at a box. What's in the box? Mind your business. As for the guests who visit this establishment, all they can do is stare at the dolls sitting at the table and wonder what the purpose of anything really is. If said guests choose to eat here for some reason, the kitchen is definitely one of a kind. It turned out looking like this, and there's a deep fryer on the ground. A good restaurant is all about having a unique experience, and that will be provided if you choose to dine at Eat. Although it's probably smart not to eat here, so avoid this place at all costs. As for the cafe, I did this. Obviously, all my creative juices were used up on the restaurant. If there's one takeaway from Animal Crossing New Horizons, it's that this is truly a game that you can play however you want. You can choose to give it your all or do the absolute bare minimum, and you still get the same reward at the end. So I figured, screw it. Let's go with the latter. Pipper wanted this? Who cares? Nox asked for this and I didn't do smack. Cody? Who the heck is Cody? Joey's getting this and Rooney got that. Robin wanted a roommate in the middle of my IDGAF-ery, so I decided to pair her with Rasher. Hear me out. You might assume Robin wanted a friend who she could kiki with at her classy estate, but I knew deep down what she truly desired was a butler, and Rasher would be perfect as one. Some more villagers came by and I didn't bother with doing any hard work, and I still got paid for all these gigs, plus a promotion as well as another party in my honor for building 20 homes, which did give Lottie a quote-unquote tummy ache, which we all know is code for the runs, but that didn't stop the grind. Axel got this and loved it, and when Lottie returned, I didn't change my ways with the next couple of clients, and she still paid me the exact same wage one would get if they actually put effort into this game for all the homes I did. Next up was designing the hospital, and oh my god, do not come here, please, you will die. It was still enough to open for business though. It says a lot about the Animal Crossing society if you really think about it. You might be feeling bad for these villagers and the abominations I've been giving them, but fear not. These villagers aren't real. You can present them with a bucket full of expired milk and they'll still treat you like royalty. I kept doing my grind until I finally made it to the 30th home. And what better way to end this cursed journey than with Lionel, who wants a home with too many toilets. This is truly what he deserves. Let's ignore the fact that his Lucy is out right now. And now that 30 homes were designed, another party was thrown for me at the cafe. And during all this, Nico and Wardell have been planning a music festival, which was finally ready for its debut. But first I had to build the clothing store, and I didn't care enough to try by this point, as you can tell, because I was ready for my favorite feature in Happy Home Paradise, throwing my butt around for DJ KK. And just like that, this island and our business are now booming and notable to all. And isn't it wild that all of this happened during my first day on the job? Full transparency now, I did this mainly so that I could unlock the ability to renovate my villagers' homes back on the island. And though I don't plan on doing it anytime soon, I figured I could at least use this ability to reset all 5 of my starters' homes back to what they're actually supposed to look like. Biff, Bertha, and Bianca went from okay homes to ones that felt more their speed, and finally, Cherry has a place that actually reflects her style. As for Rex, he wasn't home the day I did this, so I don't know what his house looks like, but I'm sure it's ugly. Overall, I actually managed to have a lot of fun during my first few weeks on my new island. It was nice to relax and actually take my time with everything, which is something I haven't really done in the game since I became a YouTuber, believe it or not. But I know for a fact that I'd get bored once again if I kept playing the same way I did in this video, and I definitely wanted to start decorating on the island soon. But that's going to require more grinding for Nook Miles to unlock terraforming, and all the extra paths. Plus I'm going to have to flatten the island and figure out all the villagers I want, and the overall theme and vibe that I'm trying to go for with this island. It's going to be a lot of work. Nah, I'll do it later.